San Francisco's skyline is a forest of glass towers, and inside them, some of the world's largest tech companies are operating around the clock. With global software deployments and emergency server maintenance to manage, there is always someone awake, keeping the lights on. These buildings are designed to feel entirely transparent. They have glass walls, open workspaces, and bright, sterile lighting. But they are also heavily tracked. An infallible network of badge gates, security cameras, and system logs records every single movement you make. After midnight, though, thousands of employees go home. The hyper-surveilled, open environment shifts. For the lone developer or security guard left behind, the empty floor becomes a silent, sterile trap. Technology records everything to keep these buildings secure. But what happens when those flawless digital systems begin to document anomalies that physically cannot exist? Ethan was a software engineer pushing through a major product launch. By 1:15 a.m., his team had gone home. He was the only person left on the entire 23rd floor of his downtown office tower, sitting alone in a conference room to fix a few final deployment issues. As he pushed another update, the room's large meeting display suddenly woke up. A calendar reminder flashed for a daily stand-up, a meeting not scheduled for another 8 hours. The camera switched on, and squares began appearing on screen. One participant, then another, until 8 people had joined. Every camera was on, and every participant sat perfectly still. None of the names matched anyone at the company. Assuming it was a software glitch, Ethan clicked "Leave Meeting," but the cursor froze. One of the participants slowly leaned toward the camera. Without their lips moving, the meeting transcript automatically generated a single sentence: "You're working too late." All 8 participants left simultaneously. The next morning, Ethan had IT pull the system logs. They checked the entire network. No meeting had ever been created. Our next story takes place in the mechanical heart of one of these buildings. Maya was working an overnight shift as a data center technician. Around 2:40 a.m., an automated alert warned her of a temperature anomaly in the restricted server rooms. She batched into the secured area. The server racks stretched out in endless rows beneath blue indicator lights, and standing at the far end of the aisle, someone was examining one of the cabinets. They were wearing a standard-issue company hoodie, standing entirely motionless. Assuming another technician had beaten her to the problem, Maya called out. The person didn't answer. Instead, they calmly turned down the next aisle. Maya followed immediately, turning the exact same corner, but the corridor was empty. It was a dead end with no physical exits. She checked behind every rack. Nothing. She grabbed her radio to report the incident. When security asked for her location, she read the sign on the door and replied, "Server room C." Silence hung on the radio. Finally, the supervisor answered and told her to leave immediately. He explained that her badge scan showed she was in server room B. When Maya looked back up, every cabinet label had changed. A server room C had never existed in the building's floor plan. Daniel's encounter takes us out of the claustrophobic server rooms and onto the exposed exterior of the skyscraper. He was a site reliability engineer dealing with an overnight outage. At 3 a.m., he had to access the freezing, wind-swept roof to manually reset a communications relay. Walking between the massive cooling units, he noticed someone else up there, a lone employee in a company jacket, wearing an ID badge, standing perfectly still at the very edge of the roof, staring out at the drop. Assuming another engineer had been called in, Daniel took a few steps toward the figure and asked if everything was okay. He got no response. Suddenly, the heavy rooftop access door violently slammed shut behind him. He instinctively turned around for a split second. When he looked back at the edge of the roof, the person was gone. The next morning, Daniel tried to rationalize what he saw. He pulled the building's CCTV footage to see who else had been up there. The camera showed Daniel walking out onto the roof completely alone, talking to empty air. The cameras showed nothing, but the building's rooftop badge access logs recorded exactly 2 physical scans entering the roof at 3 a.m. One scan belonged to Daniel. The other belonged to an employee who had resigned almost 6 years earlier. That badge had sat dormant in the system, unused, until that exact moment. We built these massive glass towers with the assumption that technology will track everything and keep us secure. That the infallible data doesn't actually protect you. It just provides the cold, hard proof that you were never alone to begin with. If you ever find yourself as the last employee left on the floor, Never accept a meeting invite from someone who no longer works there.